And we're live.
Hello, hello, hello. We are live. It sucks that we can't play music anymore.
I was literally just telling Omar that because he had a song on. I thought it was the Black Unicorn one. I was thinking how great it would be to have the entry or the song going in be that. But then we need to find the artist so that Facebook doesn't continue to mute us. Welcome, welcome, family.
Oh, have you been getting takedown notifications from copyright issues?
Oh yes, that they mute our entrance, because we used to play some music just in the beginning as people start tuning in, just kind of like how we're waiting for people to join, to tune in, and yeah, Facebook be like, the part of your video has been muted for infringement on copyrights.
I get that all the time when I live stream. Stop bothering. Like you be here for the live. You know, if you really wanted to hear this, you would have been here for the live. But if you have some friends who are musicians, you just ask them to do.
Yeah, we've had to do that for Africa Week 2020. We've had to get something specially made for us, which was really nice and helps when we have great and talented people who know to do many things, which brings us in today's topic. But before we get there, fam joining us, thank you. Please tell us where you're tuning in from, if you can hear us all clearly. We've been experimenting with things. What's you?
I don't know, my Wi-Fi is lagging.
Welcome to Africa Week.
I will take a moment now to share the Facebook Live to our pages, tell our friends. Please tell your friends to join too. So we'll welcome people as they're coming in and do that.
Before we go over time again, how long is this supposed to be, the duration?
So we aim for about 45 minutes, right?
It's already been 3 and we haven't said anything of value. Come on.
That's true. Well, we get sucked into the conversation at some point. Well, let's go ahead and kick it off then. We have a new joiner. We have a new unicorn joining our conversations. Well, Bill, you're returning. Mr. Sharif is returning too, but I don't think we've given you a proper introduction, Mr. Sharif. Well, we're here with the African Unicorns. We'll all go around and say our names and just quick hellos from where we're from. Real quick, we'll take about 2 to 3 minutes to do that real quick, and before we dive into that conversation, because I know it's going to be really quickly, so I'm going to be really fast. So hello, welcome everybody. We're the African Unicorns. We're bringing you magic this week. We're talking about purpose and passion and creativity and what drives us and how can we harness that power and turn it into money making. How can we still do the things we love and still be practical with it and rule the world, our plan for world domination. So that's what we're talking about today, specifically what that means for you today. So my name is Ines. I'm super excited to be here. We started this conversation as an outlet to share our perspectives and engage in conversations that we talk about behind closed doors amongst families and friends, but why not share it with a bigger audience and gain also other perspectives in that too. So we're here to share our perspectives. We're not experts really on anything, but we're just here to share our knowledge and based on our experiences, what we've accumulated so far. So welcome everybody. I see a few people tuning in from all over Nairobi, Puerto Rico. I got my fam from Nairobi joining. Woo, woo. Shout out to Nairobi, Puerto Rico. Dima, you're muted.
Welcome.
Yes, this is awesome. Okay, great, cool. Well, I'll turn it over to Dima. Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, yes. Thank you all for joining. My name is Dima Mahmoud. I'm Nubian from the Sudanese side and tuning in from Maryland at the moment. I don't know what Ina's talking about. We're not experts in anything. We are experts in plenty.
Talk about it.
Navigating this chaos of a life we find ourselves in, that takes some serious expertise. I am claiming my expertise. I am an expert at surviving this life that is trying to shut me down. I am here, I am smiling, and I can't wait to get this conversation started because each and every one of us is an expert in waking up and doing something. Whatever that something is, let's hear it. So yeah, we bring magic, rant rainbows, and please, please, please add your voice. Frankie from Kenya tuning in, also saying, Inas, where'd you get your mug from?
Oh, Mexico. Mexico. Oh, here it is. It's telling a story of like I forgot what the story that they told me, but I think it's like about the village. They're giving like offering and blessings and they're celebrating. So yeah, here's my little show and tell mug. And Mr. Sharif is back.
Am I back? Am I good now?
I think you're good.
I think I'm good. I had to.
Good is subjective, but carry on.
God, we're black men on the internet, Bill. We gotta. Uplifted. This is unicorn action. We poop rainbows. My name is Mr. Sharif.
Rant, oh my lord.
And I'm a teacher here in the DMV. Just joining the unicorns. I don't have my hair wrapped today, but next time.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Sharif. You don't need your hair wrapped on this show, but we'd appreciate it for next show, actually. Bring your swag. Bill, we'll go over to you. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Zimbabwe. That's in Southern Africa, if anyone doesn't want to Google that. I'm a comic book artist. Lovely to join everyone on the panel. Don't forget to follow us on all these links above. If you got a question, hit up that email, AfrikanUnicorns@gmail. Hashtag ranting rainbows. If you want to talk about it on Twitter, we'll catch it there. And we keep us real. Let's do this.
Nice. All right. So listen, we have a huge topic. We sort of touched on this topic last episode, right? We were talking about creativity, where that comes from. Bill, you got asked a question. You were kind of like on the spot talking about you being a comic artist and kind of how you channeled that artistry. And now you're able to like offer your skills in so many different ways, not just one-dimensional as just a comic artist. So we talked about that a little bit. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of, you guys contribute to whoever wants to jump in. I know that was a little bit a lot for Bill to unpack last time. So I will put you on the spot. So we have a whole episode to talk about it now.
It's heavy stuff, so we wanted to kind of dive deeper. But you talked about, you loved comedy or comics, and then you went into e-commerce or econ, or how'd you combine the two? And just like what drove you to kind of like put the two together?
I mean, it's really the topic for this week is use what you have. I was actually thinking about over the last 2 weeks, and if you go watch the last video, Omar was like, how do you summarize your entire life experience in a tweet? And I'm like, Omar, come on. And I think it's basically the topic for this week is that if there's any sort of takeaway from what I was talking about in terms of wanting to do something, your family chooses otherwise, and then still going into that field of your dreams, don't throw away that time that you spent doing the other things. You got to use the tools that you're given, whether they're blunt, whether they're inapplicable, deconstruct them, make them useful, and just keep moving forward, keep advancing. And I think that was the key there.
It all sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds great. It sounds
But sounds like there's a but coming.
There's
But
a,
how? But
there's a butt coming.
there's definitely a butt coming. I mean,
This is a PG-13 show, sir.
I'll keep it there. I'll keep it there. I'll keep it there. So it sounds easy, but how do you filter through like what is noise? How do you find out? How do you follow your passion without being distracted by necessity, but by survival, by like desire, by right what happens along the way? Because it's don't lose it. But what if that wasn't my passion in the first place? What if it was something I was interested in the moment? Like, how do you even find that thing? What's that journey like?
I'm glad I researched this a little bit, because all my life throwing these like sidewinder questions, and I don't want to be here like and make a mumble rap mixtape. I don't want to do that, especially because we live.
The African Unicorn mumble rap mixtape is coming. We'll put it together.
Please, Omar, there's
I kind of wanted to happen.
No, enough. This yo wow. There is this thing in it's from Japan, but it's adapted into business. It's called ikigai, which is basically your purpose, right? That the word that means the thing you are designed put on earth to do. And it's a Venn diagram of what you, sorry, my screen went dim. It's a Venn diagram of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, right? And within that Venn diagram is your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. And definitely, I mean, if you can fill up at least two of those, get paid for something, and it's necessary for the world, I think, you have your whole life. I mean, life expectancies vary from country to country, but you have your whole life to figure out, the combination of what's good for the world, what's good for you, what gets paid, right? And definitely in that notion of if you want to be an astronaut when you're a kid, did we talk about that last week? I think this is my go-to profession. If you want to be an astronaut as a kid, right, and then like later you want to be a race car driver, don't throw away like what I was saying before. Like you've accumulated these tools and this passion and this desire to be an astronaut, right? What skills do you need there in order to survive multiple G's and moving in a? I mean, those are two similar, astronaut and race car driver, because you're effectively in a machine that's moving very fast. But like let's say you want to be an astronaut and then you want to be a football player. There we go. Those are two randomly arbitrary fields. There's a lot of pressure, there's communication, there's teamwork, those things that you can reapply to something else. You don't lose those. You hold on to them. It's not like everything I learned as an astronaut is nonsense. Space is not going to help me on the pitch. It's all about passion and kicking the ball. Like, nah, there's a lot more to every profession out there. And definitely things like teaching can pivot into coaching, right? So maybe you want to play for the NFL. I don't know nothing about that. But like if you go from teaching to coaching, you have a passion, you know about the human body, and you know what's best for other players who may be peak or growing into their field. You're still at the periphery of your desires. And I don't want to say settle, because that's trash. But if you get close enough to your goal, that is incentive for you to keep going. But it's okay if you're making enough money for you to be comfortable. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't settle, but like.
So we're talking about this point, like you're pretty much working to like package what you have. Like you were talking about goals and figuring out interests. And at that point you've come to a point in life where you've gotten some experiences and now you're trying to like apply it. But what happens like before that? How do we cultivate that? Like if we're talking to our younger selves, like how, if we go back and kind of like reflect on that, how do we feel like individually we were able to like cultivate that for ourselves? And also, what messages were we getting from family, from parents? Like, are parents killing our dreams? Like in terms of like, like, is that really a real thing? Are we getting, what kind of messages are resonating with us as we're growing older? Your parents are telling you like, well, no, you got to be practical. You got to, be a doctor, a lawyer. And and especially with African parents, we all know that, right? There are certain professions that are handpicked for us that determine success, right? And if we don't do any of these things, then somehow you're not successful, right? And also as we immigrate, right, as from being people of African descent from all over immigrating, and we take these messages with us, and you come to a place like, for example, America, where you're sold in this idea of the American dream, and you got to like work towards that and find your passion and make it practical too, and make it big. What messages, like, how do we break it down from like our youth? Like, what do we understand?
It's making it big and all of that while still being rooted in your tradition and not forgetting where you come from and still holding the flag and still, it's like you need to embody where you come from, but not be it.
And I think some of what like a lot of is making sense.
Embody where you come from, but don't be it. Ooh, I'm tweeting that. Ooh, I'm tweeting it right now. Oh, sorry, Omar. Please continue.
Nah, man. Nah, if you moved, let it out, brother. If you moved what the sister said, let it out. Let it out.
If the spirit touched you, brother.
This is it. But I think to what one point Bill made was, what does the world need? And back to Dima's point, if not throwing out who you are, the world needs your perspective, right? So like, what makes us all unique is we have a unique perspective of our own. And to go back to Inez's question about like, what do we do and what the messages we send, I would like to highlight that background that you have right there. I think modeling, making the best of what you have is the best way to let people, to send the message that you must really have a love for unicorns and a hatred for throwing things out, as Bill said, because that background,
Don't put this on me.
That background says a lot. It says that you love unicorns and you love using what you have. I think this is I think we've just hit a point. I'm gonna give myself a rim shot. That's what I do. I control that part.
This man passed to himself and then shot in his like, good game, everybody. Good game.
And I cheered for myself after that too.
But I mean, that's literally the essence of that, the embodiment of that, right? Like start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And it's literally the show, right? Like we've talked about getting the show started for so long, but it's just like, all right, we got a unicorn tablecloth that we can use. As long as you don't care what people think and just do your thing,
passion, purpose,
you're good.
Who you are, and don't forget who you are, and that's who you are. That's amazing. I applaud you. I wish I had an applause loaded. I took off the last applause because y'all didn't like it. So
it sounded like a drive-by.
It did.
It did sound a bit intimidating.
But it goes into the heart of starting African Unicorns. In that there is a lot of good and a lot of resourcefulness within our global family that simply isn't out there, that we don't know about, because people are too worried about it not being perfect or it not being up to par or it not being as good as it could be. Yes, sure, there's always room for improvement. But the point is, people are starting, people are doing something. And if we're not celebrating that, if we're not taking a moment to acknowledge that, to honor that, to be inspired by that, even if we're not doing everything that we know we can or could, or, just knowing that someone out there is doing something and is doing something that is making them happy, then you start thinking, they don't have everything going on for them. But for that half hour that they're on this live, they come to life and they are breathing life into everything that they are doing and everything that they are saying. That is joy, and that needs to be celebrated. And if it allows us to be inspired, then bring it on.
I'm snapping.
Yes, like Inez, you have that duct tape, right? Show that duct tape.
We're running out of tape. We're running out of tape. We are out sake.
I don't know why y'all are coming for Inas today.
It's not Inas per se. It's
She's just trying to live her best life.
I'm okay doing that though.
No, it's because she said a very important thing. Don't worry about what people will think. And I think to a very, very serious and detrimental extent, that's what's stopping people from stepping and expressing everything that they are, because they're worried, oh, where did this come from? Oh, you do this? Oh, you do that? Like, yes, we do it all.
I want you to know, Bill, I'm a grown man with his own playroom. This is my playroom. I don't care what nobody thinks, though. So I just, so I come in here, and this is where I have fun. But this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a space like just that represented me, where I could teach from, where I could tell jokes from, where I can podcast from. So that's what I did, and my wife let me, so she can have her unicorn background. That's all she gets. I get a whole room. She gets.
Yeah. So
how we do it?
Some people are gonna feel bad. They're gonna feel bad for me. Here's the thing. I feel okay.
She worked with what she had. She had a unicorn tablecloth. I had microphones, cameras. Had a lot
and we put it together.
We make it work.
Inas, do we have the shots from actually how we set up our first live?
Oh yeah,
because
we do.
We didn't just use that. Can you pull that up? Because we didn't just use the tablecloth as a background. We brought pots out, props, lamps, tagines that we flipped over.
There was a lot.
So I get to just kind of back to what Bill was talking about earlier, just like how, like, and communicate in like now we want to get to cultivating. Like I do want to,
right.
How do we cultivate this and pass it on? Because that's like pointing out Inas and picking on Inas today is really about modeling. Literally, I just want to get back. It's about modeling. That's what it is. Like that background, small. Very small example. It's a very minute example, but let's appreciate the small examples and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing because I want to represent the unicorns at all times. The first thing I heard Dima say today was, oh man, I forgot my unicorn mug. We want to have our unicorn props. I said, hey, you gotta have a unicorn prop list for every show. And as we learn, as we go along, the product becomes better and we improve on it. But how do we get people to start? Because I'm working on the stopping part, right? So once you start stopping, how do you get people to start and then pass them off to me, the school, the teacher? Get them to start, get them to me. I got the rest. I'll bring it home for Jerome. Just when you pass the baton, make sure they're in shape and they know what they're doing a little bit.
I think, oh man, at home, I think that's a great question. And I think it very much starts with upbringing and like the messages that we have at home. And I think it starts with courage. Like I think with anything that we start, the heart of it, I think for me personally, is the courage to start. And even if you, like if a kid, for example, is getting messages constantly about putting things at the center, like how do you even focus yourself into like getting something started, right? Is having a goal. Bill talked about, organizing yourself, finding your interests, the skills. Now we're talking about practically how can we do it? How can we get started? But I think it starts from your inner self and centering that and knowing what that goal. And I know sometimes that seems like a lofty thing. Like I think a lot of the times, especially, I remember like reflecting back on myself, like in high school, where I'm like, I don't know what college I want to pick and I have no idea what I want to be. And there's just so many things to like figure out. So as we're talking about goals now, I'm like, oh, that sounds great. But I'm like, back then I would have been like, wait, I have so many goals. Like, where do I even like start? Which one is more important for me? And which one is going to be more beneficial for me in life later? And I think that's why it's important to have these conversations, because it's like, no, you do have your creative artistic side. That's something that you do want to cultivate and keep at the center. You don't want to lose that. But at the same time, okay, let's go to school to develop all these other skills that you can like hone in and tap in on later as you're building your business for your creative artistic side. So I think sometimes even reframing that conversation as to like, even going to school, what that means. It's like, well, I don't want to go to college, or like, I want to drop out of school. And like all of these things, it's like, can we reframe them in a way where we can still, they're not at conflict, right? Like we can still go to school and pursue, like Bill, you perfect example, commerce and studying economics and the science aspect of things. But like somehow, some way you found like, there's no way that any of these skills and perspectives in some way tangentially or another didn't help you either become the person that you are today, or by interacting with the people in the program, the professor, whatever experiences that you garnered out of that has given you all of these, not just the technical skills, but they're also soft skills that shape you as a person that you need later to communicate and interact with people and go out into the world and do something.
Donut Bay, you've been addressed.
He's frowning.
Return to sender. Don't address me. It's a little mail-in ballot joke. So everyone said a lot. I want to touch on something Dima said, and basically, when you have these goals about what you want to be and what you want to look like in 5 to 10, even at the end of your lifespan, people usually only look at the end product of the thing or the service, right? So it's like, you want to be, I don't know, someone pick a profession, otherwise I'm going to say astronaut again. Anyone.
Astronaut.
No, Omar.
A banker. Let's take it to finance.
Yeah. No,
Professional
I don't like
street
that.
crosser.
Yeah. That's just called jaywalking. So, a banker. So if you want to be a banker, right? Everyone says, oh, I want to make money, I want to have the car, I want to have the house, and whatever fame is attached to being a chartered accountant, right? But no matter the profession or the goal, people in general don't look at the beginning of that journey, or even the hardest parts of getting to that. I have a big car, I have a big house, I have big money, right? It's figuring out what maths marks you need to get now. It's figuring out what subject combinations you need to struggle through now, what things you need to go through that you don't like to satisfy your end goal, right? Like shortcuts are always the kinds of questions that people ask about. It's like, okay, what do I need to do to get there quickly? What do I need to do to get there faster? What mistakes did you make that I can avoid? And those are they're very selfish questions, but they're important questions to ask, because like let's pull it away from the personal and let's make it even like about a world war. I don't know why a World War II started, right? But people will be so fascinated by the documentaries and the people that put things in motion and the conversations that started and the resources that were lacking or needed to get to the point where the whole world is involved. And you have to start small, you have to think small and then scale up. So even in things like teaching, you can't just go start teaching kids in the inner city. I don't know what that means, but I've heard it on TV. You can't just go start teaching kids in the inner city. There's some social work skill that's needed, and a little bit of psychology. You have to, at least have been friendly with kids before this. Because if you hate kids and then you start teaching because there's money involved or because you need it to fulfill a diploma, you're gonna have a bad time, and you're gonna mess up a bigger experience. And this compartmentalization and making components of our dreams is so important, because if you drop the ball in the middle, right, then I'm just thinking about, like, if we go back to the banker, right, and I chose the banker route and said comics will be secondary, right, I don't know how sharp my tool without the passion is. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be a qualified something or another, but am I and I think happiness is one of those big asks about like the human experience. Like if you are comfortable, you're content, you're safe, right? Everything on your self-actualization chart is fine, but you're not happy. Does any of that matter?
That's a question. To challenge that a little bit.
I've got an answer for that, but it's longer than this show is going to allow.
45 minutes.
So we're gonna keep
Dima?
it on time.
Yeah.
Omar, your turn is over. Dima? Yeah.
Yeah, that's messed up. We're allowing for openness in the sharing of
Yes,
ideas.
yes.
I wanted to show off, letting you know that as Black men, we have to uplift each other, and we are still doing this.
Tearing each other
Sir.
apart. This is a prime example right here of what we're trying not to perpetuate, Bill.
Be careful before you become what you know. Dima, sorry.
I want to touch, well, there's a few points that I wanted to touch on there, just all over the place at the moment, but I want to go to the point of learning from people's mistakes, like Bill was saying. I think a big part of the challenge is putting ego where it needs to be. Because even if you are offering your experience, even if you are saying, this is what I did, even if you're not actually offering it directly, but you know, it's there. Part of the ego will say, that won't happen to me because I'm not like that, because I already saw it, because I already this, I already that. And so I don't need to worry about this. Without getting into, without coming to you and saying, okay, can you tell me more about this hiccup that you had as you were starting off? Can you tell me more about this issue or this challenge that you had as you were launching this situation? And as much as, and I want to bring in a comment here from Frankie. Frankie, thank you for tuning in and for your insights. He was saying it's key to be open to teach. Welcome those that are willing to learn to your process, being gracious and encouraging the emerging generation to build up on your experiences. Yes. And then he goes on to say, it's about the relationships you build with people that will build you in the future. They are key in making the jump from just doing the work to being successful at your ventures. I think a big part of that is also being open to being wrong.
Yeah.
Is being open to be making a complete fool out of yourself. Yes. To being open to not having people understand what it is you're doing, and being solid enough in yourself, in your core, to make sense to yourself before you try making sense of yourself to others. Because this is just this is
Awesome.
at the heart of the struggle that we're having here, is that as soon as we start making sense to ourselves, or we feel like, okay, where we're holding the threads and things are starting to connect and it's making sense, then someone comes in with whatever insecurities they're carrying, whatever doubts they have, whatever it is that is in their bubble, and projecting it straight at you. And then all the strings that you had very nicely put and held go all over the place because you're trying to catch the bubbles that are being thrown at you that will throw you off balance. So you need to be okay with, like, yeah, I might be wrong. This might be a complete and utter failure. But it is an opportunity for me to learn. Because you know what? My entire childhood, you told me I will learn from my mistakes. My entire childhood, you told me I don't know what I'm doing and I will learn as I go. So here I am learning as I go. I'm allowing myself to be great. I dropped a link in there. There was this, I do want to take a moment to just share the gist of the story. Is this little boy in school. Please do whatever platform you're watching this on, Africa Week 2020, African Unicorns, for Black Power. This link that was dropped was about a boy in school, and one day the teacher said they were going to draw. And he gets really excited. And he's told to draw something. And then he's asked to stop. And before he can start to draw, he's being shown how to draw what he's being told to draw. So even the things that we could leave to our imagination, it goes back to what Omar was saying in that last episode. You're killing that imagination. And we scare kids from being wrong.
We send more messages. We send way more messages that encourage us not to learn than we do messages that encourage us to learn.
Facts.
Yeah, we
Color
say,
inside the line.
yeah, it's like we might use words that are supposed to encourage kids, but then we don't realize the message behind. Even if it's learn from your mistakes. And then every time a kid makes a mistake or does something wrong, gets an answer wrong, to get yelled at. Or I studied Quran for years, and let me tell you, I got hit a lot for making mistakes, learning a language that I never even saw before. Like, right, it's a foreign language for me. I'm 11. I'm trying my best. Stop hitting me. Why would I want to come back here and learn with you? If this is going to be the relationship that you have with me making mistakes? So once again, it becomes as like I didn't like it as a young person. So as an adult, and I think we've been talking about, you know, sending messages at home, and it's starting from like where it starts is tough because it can't start from the inside, just because when you're born, the only thing you can do is cry, poop, sleep, eat, repeat. That's it, right? So you're getting external messages first, and the messages that you get, you're trying to decipher. So we're not clear enough. Messages like curiosity killed the cat say, don't be curious. Messages like don't make assumptions because you make a blank out of you and me says don't assume. Researchers make assumptions. That's what they do. They make tons of assumptions and then work through until they find conclusions. But as I say all the time, the reason why we suck at finding conclusions and working through this and finding solutions is because we suck at math. We don't think math is important. So we're good at finding problems. We're not good at working through. We give up. We stop once we can't find the common denominator with whatever we're dealing with. We'll just give up and move on. But the messages about learning have to be more towards promoting and loving learning. Even if as a teacher, I say I'm a learner in my classroom first and foremost. I'm trying to learn my students. I want to learn how they learn so that next year when I get a new batch of kids, I can have a new way to teach it. Because going to meetings with teachers, I'm learning the same ways to teach the same stuff. It's not giving me any more information. So it's a really important thing to not just think you're a teacher once you've become and arrived. Because what you're going to end up doing is throwing away all the stuff from before. If you throw away your childhood and forget and back to our convo from earlier in this show, if you forget what it's like to be a child, if you throw away your space, your astronaut experience, if you throw away your astronaut experience when you become a NASCAR driver, it was a wasted experience.
It was a wasted experience, yeah.
So childhood becomes a wasted experience because we don't bring that with us. We become adults, and now we have to, I don't know why we have to pretend to be experts at everything and not allow kids to make mistakes and stop kids from making mistakes, even though we believe kids need to make mistakes. No is the seventh most popular first word for kids. Dad is number 9. So they're hearing no, they're being told no and stop and not to do things. But kids, babies, young people learn through exploration. They learn, and then the minute we do that, we stop them from learning. Then they come to my class and they're like, I don't know what you want me to do. I've been told that learning wasn't fun. So now I got to make learning fun. So one thing we have to do is be learners. We have to make learning look fun. We have to model that learning is fun so that everything kids learn, they enjoy learning. And then hopefully they don't throw it out.
I think I also want to touch on like the pace of that process, because I think Bill, you highlighted on that. You touched on that a little bit when you were talking about everything has to be like fast, and even I was talking to Elmer earlier because it's like reflecting back on my like elementary school experience. It was I got punished for not getting something as quick as the teacher wanted me to get it. And so even if I got the problem right, that wasn't celebrated. It was, I took too long to get there and that was annoying. Like, why didn't you get it the first time? I'm like, wait, I thought I was here to do this. Like, this is cool. Like, this isn't, I'm supposed to do this. Like, I'm supposed to make mistakes. So I know what to do next. But in terms of pacing, it becomes, you got to do everything quickly. And so when we follow an unnatural pace that's quicker than our own process, we don't all of these messages don't end up resonating. And so what we find ourselves as we're growing older and getting closer to that goal, we end up chasing the going to college, the finishing, graduating, the getting the great job, the getting married. The next thing becomes the task. And so, and yeah, and even cognitively, even if you talk about from like a psychological perspective, it's like we haven't even allowed ourselves, our being, our inner self, and also mentally to just catch up to where we are. There's so many messages that are not being absorbed. And as you're growing, as you're getting older, you access a different depth to whatever your existing experience is. And we come back to learning should be more so of, if you look at it from, you have this blank canvas and you end up just layering, we don't want to toss different ideas or premises or goals or perspectives that we had, but we want to be able to kind of just figure out a way how to harmonize that on a canvas. Right. And so a lot of the times it's just like, well, toss out the messages and just kind of keep going. And it's like, no, just wait, stop for a second, absorb the messages that you're getting, check back in with yourself as to like clarifying that goal is, and see if that new perspective or new idea that you got. And Dima, back to also what you were saying, a lot of people come in with critiques or their perspective. And even sometimes when you're not careful, that can be like damaging to you, because you're like, I'm so excited, I have this great idea. And somebody's like, oh, that's great. Why don't you just shift the whole idea? And I have a better idea. Like, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, but here is a better idea that you can do.
I'm triggered.
Like, oh, wait. But I had a good idea. Like, why don't you hear me out? So it's like you have to not be able to get to a point where you just that doesn't discourage you anymore, and realize that that's just what people do.
Yeah, that's the next. I think that's that next like self-realization step, is that when we say things like, oh, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and then someone will give you their opinion, and then it'll like deflate all parts of your life. I'm like, no, let them have it. Let them have that opinion. That's a thought. It's an idea, but it's an interesting turn when we're trying to manage our passions and our purpose.
Yeah, but it goes back to understanding opinions and the role of opinions in contributing to what society is. Because if you're raised in a society that revolves around people's opinions of you, like I read this article, there was an interview with Bassem Youssef, who is an Egyptian doctor turned satire comedian turned, I don't know, vegan life coach of some sort. There's so many different recreations of who he is. And in that interview, he's saying, one of the things that he said or realized, that growing up in the Middle East, you can either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. Those are your options. And there's so much of that is in African families, ingrained in African youth, in that what is it, what do you mean you want to be this? What are we going to tell people? Like, which people? Why do you have to tell people? Why don't you just let people be? And if people have something to say about who or what I am, people can come to me. And why can't you trust that you have raised me well enough, that you have invested in me well enough, that I will be able to hold my ground? Why don't you trust that you have put such a great example in front of me that I will be able to hold my ground the way you held your ground, the way you led this life, the way you went against certain things and certain aspects in your turning point.
The way Inez is scratching the back of her head, I know what she's thinking. She's like, "That's right, Mom. It's your fault." That's what she's thinking.
But see, that's the thing. But that's
I don't think we do well with transition points in life. You know, I don't like, if you think about it, I mean, and even going back to parenting, it's like my challenge also with my family. It's like in growing up, you're always the little kid, you're always the child. You grow out of that at a certain point, right? There are certain key pivotal literally transition points in your life as you grow. You're not a teenager anymore. You're a child, you're a toddler. You know, we grow into different phases being a teenager. That's a terrible time, but you get over it at a certain point. I love all my nieces that are watching, but it is just a time where like nobody knows what's going on. And I wish if I can give you better advice, but it's going to pass and you're going to be a better person eventually. Just make good choices. And eventually you go to college, you hit your 20s, then you graduate, and now you're welcome to adulting. Now we have this term, and like, go now adult. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, no, I don't want to pay my own, like, I don't know what to do any of these like practical things. And so with the role of parenting also, and the role of like, you know, it takes a village it takes a village to raise a child. What does that mean? You know, it's like they're different roles that we play in that child raising process, right? And we can't baby them throughout the entire process, because eventually our developmental stages, whether psychologically, physically, mentally, all of it, require a different kind of care. And I don't think as people we graduate or even understand what that means, because the pace of life is just, again, back to that, is so quick. You know, you're running, you're in a cycle, you have kids, they're competing responsibilities. And so we don't stop to like treat those transition periods developmentally well. And so you've got parents that are still talking to their kids when they're like adults into like 40s and 50s, and still have the mindset of them as like a younger child. And granted, I understand that's just a parenting thing. Like I don't have kids, so I don't really like understand the complexity and depth of that, right? But generically speaking, there is like an unhealthy attachment that hasn't evolved into like how you view that child. So the way that you even respond to them, and the messages, and the way that you're talking to them, you need to be able to cultivate a certain independence or a certain, self-agency within the kid, so that the kid, however old they are, in your eyes, they're a kid, but they need to go out and perform into the world. And so we need to hold them accountable. And so our messages to them even needs to evolve. And as adults, our messages needs to evolve. And that's something that Frank here in the comments actually also touched on, and being flexible in our purpose and evolving our passion, because even like our purposes and our passion in life is going to change in those different stages, right? Even if you think about picking a major and being like that, it's long, but yes, it's like the essence of that. It's like, at some points in college, look at how many like majors, people have different experiences, and you don't have to have gone to college as a traditional way of going to school. But you go through a flurry of trying out different majors, classes. I don't like this and I don't like that. But I even reflect back to my experience. I think it was so frustrating, because I'm like, the messages that I'm getting, I'm like, well, you got to pick a major. You got to stick with something. You got to go through it. Just graduate.
Can we take a moment?
And that's just attacking us.
I think
it's like, these are all the things that I think we need to like be mindful and unpack, because they're detrimental if we keep like not checking them and passing them down to our kids.
And once again, I just want to say, we just in this, making sure that the message, what the checking in is for, the checking in, and even back to Dima's question about, why don't you trust that you cultivated and put the work into me, and I'm going to represent you the best way that I can, based on, the messages that I received from you. But the checking in is making sure along the way that those messages were being communicated. The part of that, there is responsibility too. And I want any young person who has a mom, me, listening, to know this. Like, it is still your responsibility to show and prove that you can, that I can leave, so that your parents can trust that you'll be safe out here in the world. Because ultimately, that's what they want for us. You don't think that's what they want, Bill? You don't think that's what they want, Bill? You don't.
I
You don't think it's our responsibility too, as the children of our parents, right? I want to push back against us.
Can I do want to add something here, because it's, again, parents, African parents specifically, are not just experts on guilt tripping. They like have travel agents. They have a travel agent. They are there's a travel agency of guilt tripping in all different aspects.
Listen,
that being said, you know, just the fact that you are having this conversation with a parent could be taken as you being ungrateful, you know, disloyal, disrespectful, you know, holier than thou, better than thou, you know, we can name them. I've been on that travel.
We have a winner.
You know, they're all there. The question is, how do we navigate this from a place of love, right? From a place of love, to say, we see what you have done, we see what you have poured into us, and really all we're trying to do is be the best we can be with everything you have given us, with everything you have poured into us. And it goes back to what Inas was saying about navigating this adulting and seeing us as kids, because even that has its contradictions. I mean, at 7 years old, I was old enough to fast. I was old enough to stop crying when something upset me. I was old enough to do and do and do and do, but I wasn't old enough to know what I wanted to be. I wasn't old enough to. So there are certain things that you're old enough to do and not old enough to do. And here I am. I'm not going to say my age, but I'm old enough to get married. But I'm not old enough to know what I want to be doing with my work. I'm not old enough to decide where I want to be spending my energy. I'm not old enough to, you know, but you expect me to be old enough and ready to start a family. Starting a family means bringing a whole other human being into this life and guiding this human into a life that you don't believe I can navigate. There are some contradictions here that we need to be comfortable addressing. And the thing is, they can't be addressed properly if it's not understood that these conversations are based on love. It's just we have different love languages that we don't understand.
I just want to say, as future potential parents, the four of them, it's our job. Kind of where I feel like it goes back, like literally, when I talk about like passion, purpose, we talk about career. Most children, if we're talking about the children that we're us, we are our parents' passion and their purpose. So they're pouring into us, right? So this is a good example. But look at what it turns into. It turns into us having a vent session.
Ranting windows.
And then the question is, who are we talking to? Because I can guarantee you right now, my mom isn't listening, right? So we're talking to really each other. I'm talking to my wife. I'm talking to my friends. I'm talking to family members who may have children, who will have children potentially. And it's like, don't forget the stuff we started with in this podcast was don't throw out the old. Don't throw out your childhood. Remember, you like having fun. When did you stop enjoying fun? Really quick. Anybody?
What does that sentence even mean, my guy?
Enjoying fun.
When did you stop enjoying?
When did you stop having fun with fun? This is basically what you said.
Really?
It wasn't.
But when we look at children and we see them having fun, essentially we end up just like putting all of that out, and like learning stops being fun. So then being around adults stops being fun. And then what happens, right? We had a convo this morning and really talked about, like, when you go to learn, you get in trouble for asking questions because you're confused, and then you get in trouble for getting answers wrong because you're confused. What do? You stop asking questions and you just assume you're always right instead. And that's what we have out here in the world. Everyone assumes they're right. No, like, you're not allowed to ask questions. You just speak what we say in Black culture is facts, and you speak those facts without synthesizing those facts, and you're just spitting facts. And the facts are facts.
Oh God.
The facts are facts. However, those facts don't carry any weight without any meaning, without any perspective behind them. Right? There is still a solution at the end of those problematic facts that you just presented.
I think I can't help to go back to, like, pace, and Omar, especially when you're saying, we are future prospective parents, like, and in talking about creating the next generation, and what kind of environment and life and do we want to see in society, do we want to see? And Dima, back to your point, as you're describing how you're going through the different stages in life, being so overwhelmed, and now that I'm an adult and I still can't figure out, like, I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I want to do career-wise, and it becomes exhausting because it's just so fast. And the thing is, like, our environment cultivates just confusion, and it's okay with confusion, but just go ahead and go through life confused. That's okay. That's literally the message that we're sending out.
Shout out to confusion.
Don't undress your confusion.
We miss you. We like, no.
But the thing is, like, we can still unpack it for ourselves. And I think that back to the power of just reflection, as to, like, checking in with yourself and seeing what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And if we're not able to individually go back to that, if we haven't cultivated that for ourselves, I think it's something that is incredibly important for us to cultivate individually, even as kids, and kind of being more reflective about, even when we make mistakes, like, what does that mean? It's not, I think a lot of the times the emphasis becomes on, like, the consequences, the punishment of, like, what is the proper response that matches what just happened as a punishment? But it's more so, can we reframe it differently and think about, where did we, quote unquote, go wrong? Is there a better solution? Could I have shown up in a different way that could have alleviated the stress or changed the problem? And that's what self-reflection is, and kind of coming to yourself and unpacking those questions for you, not for anybody else. And I think a lot of the times for kids, it's like, you got to have answers for adults, because the way that you're answering questions in school, and you're kind of, the anxiety is just to have the right answer. And a lot of the times we go through life, it's like, okay, what is the right thing what is the thing that's going to make me the most money, so I can just, like, do this? And it's like, oh, no, wait, what about what it means for you? What is it that you like to do? And also, Bill, you touched on another point. It's like, also happiness. Yeah, I want to be happy doing what it is that I'm doing. But also being careful with that and checking it, because not everything that you do work-wise is always going to be happy. And I think that's another lofty idea that we have in our society now, that we're always going to be happy. We're always going to be enjoying everything that we're doing 100%. The reality is,
I'm always happy, babe. I'm always happy.
Acknowledging there's a conflict with that, right? There's certain tasks that we don't enjoy, that we don't like. Nobody just likes to just read emails and type emails all day, right? But it's part of the job. I do sometimes. I like spreadsheets and emails, but I mean, it's part of the job. But it's also keep having that conversation where, like, yeah, some jobs, some aspects do suck, and so I find that challenge, or that conversation comes up as we generalize millennials and in the workspace. But even in talking with people who are recently graduated and now this is their first full-time job, but it's like, Oh, no. It's not always going to be great. Like this lofty idea sometimes that we don't check, that we're always just going to be automatically turned on and happy at work, not sexually, but just that we're going to be great and life is going to be happy. And that's great, but also temper that with like practicality of life as to like what happens. Bill, go.
Oh, you said something wild at the end there. But
Yes, I thought I heard that too, but I think it's just the microphone.
No.
This is why we don't have the same. This is why we don't have the same last name. This is why we don't have the same last name. Because when these kinds of things happen, I need to have an escape plan. I need to know. I need to know who I should affiliate with and who I shouldn't affiliate with.
She just kind of just like
she can be an Ajabane for life, okay, forever. like Temptations forever. She could be an Ajabane forever. I don't care.
Okay, so 1 point from each of you actually made me think of another question that might be super important, or it could be a trash question. It's really a binary. So from Omar, it's when you're young, we curate discovery, right? We curate that sense of, bewilderment and just wanting to figure things out with, whether it's play blocks, whether it's sound, whether it's interacting with animals, creatures, technology, right? And we say, no, don't do this. Yes, do this. Yes, this. Because like you are, as a parent, you are imparting what you understand to be the best way to learn or interact with the world. And then from Dima, you said, well, you didn't say it. What I'm extrapolating from you is basically, where do we accept opinions from? Because opinions are coming at us, whether it's from the internet, whether it's from family, from friends, co-workers. But particularly when it comes to our dreams, whom do we deem valuable when we accept opinions, right? Do you accept advice from someone you wouldn't take criticism from? Like that sort of questioning. And then in us, basically that whole experience with your junior school, getting the answer but getting it late, in terms of like school doesn't teach you to learn. Like most school systems, they teach you how to answer exam questions. They don't teach you how to. They really don't teach you about the field. They say this is what's on the syllabus. Like you can go off read about rainforests, but this is about precipitation in general. Answer this question and this question alone, which is why multiple choice is the devil. I mean, it saves a lot of people, but like, woo. So
It has its place.
It has its place. So the question that is developing from those 3 points that you've brought, and many of the other things that you said, is that what if my dream career hasn't been, because we live in a very fast age, right? We've touched on technology once or twice in this conversation. Yeah. What if my dream career hasn't been invented yet?
Yes.
I don't want to invent the thing. Like, again, astronauts, like, I'm
yes.
sorry, but like, if you were in like the 1920 or even like way back when, and you are built different. You're built to fly in space, but the technology and humanity just has not caught up to what you are designed, that dream thing that makes you money, that benefits the world. What if it just, like, even if you're a software developer in like the 90s and you want to code for apps, but like smartphones didn't become a thing until the mid 2010s.
Right.
That, I think that for me, it just dawned on me, and that's terrifying. Like, you just have to be, and it goes back to that thing I was saying at the very beginning, where you might have to settle for not checking all the boxes.
Yeah.
In terms of your dream, check what you can. Like, I'm not saying you must wait for your dream career to manifest, because there's something for everyone. But that it made me, like, I'm in my feelings now.
Like, check what's available, keep your ear to the streets, kind of thing is what I feel like it.
Why you gotta say it like that? Why you gotta?
Because I'm from the streets. Okay, now I've been trying to keep it professional for the last hour. It's been tough, but now I'm here. We're after 1 o'clock, so I'm going to keep it real. Got to keep.
Oh yeah, we need to keep it real. We got to keep it real. That's right. 1 hour in.
1 hour.
If you want more, you're gonna subscribe to the Patreon.
You got to subscribe to the Keep It Real section of the Unicorns.
Hang on, Keep It Real section.
And I hung on. I was like, okay.
I was expecting something.
Yeah, I love it. But no, I think Dima's having some technical issues.
Dima's having technical issues. I do. We actually can't hear you, Dima.
Yes, we.
Oh, now we can hear you.
Can we?
Okay,
You're lagging.
My laptop is going to crash. Can
How do
I
you
just
know?
say something really quickly? I want to read. Yes.
That's funny. I love that the Africa connection on Bill's side is staying strong.
Best internet in the room right now.
I think so.
For Black
Dima's
power.
in the US
That's what I'm
is
saying.
struggling a little bit.
I do think, to answer your question, though, Bill, my father-in-law has this quote that he used me one time. He used it one time. He doesn't know. He has no idea. I say it every day. Are they in conflict? Right. And for me, when I think about your question, passion, purpose, using whatever, I think about a bunch of things. One, yes, keeping ear to the streets. Yes, pulse, and listening. Learning how to listen is super huge. I remember being in third grade, and all I heard was, you got to learn how to multiply because you will never walk around and have a calculator in your pocket. I thought, and I was so confused. I was like, how do you know, Mom? Because she was my teacher, and I definitely got beat that night. But my point is, literally, it's like that conversation continued later. Different. Don't choose
Backstage.
ever question me in class again. It was different. But you always heard that in school. Like, you got to learn how to multiply. But first of all, that's not why I should learn how to multiply. Stop it. That's a terrible message. Number two, how do you know? How do you know I will never walk around? You don't know what the world will be like when I'm your age.
You don't know me.
You don't know me, and that's what I felt. And so sometimes, as adults, cultivating messages, being careful, understanding when we say you can be anything, you can do anything you imagine, put your mind to it, put your effort. It's not a lie. It's just that the messages we send after that don't support that message. Instead, we're like, be whatever you want to be, as long as you do what I tell you to do, because you live under my house, under my rules, go to school, do what I said, and I will, otherwise.
Anecdotes are rooted in the past, not potential. That's basically what you're saying. I'm tweeting that. I didn't even put in quotations this time. It's all me.
Oh man,
there are a bunch of quotables actually. They're pretty good. I have to go back and write those.
I got all the audio, so we're gonna go back, steal some of Bill's quotes, put them on my Instagram page. I'm gonna tweet those out.
No, I just need to do this real quick. Like, this is super important. I need my followers to know that I said some super hot stuff.
Yo, but Bill, hold on. No, but on a serious note, a little bit. I listened to you.
Serious up until now?
Yeah, I know. What happened? Are we not serious? Because Dima's here. Like, what's happening? I'm not sure.
Is it because it's two black men? We see you in that.
Sorry, that wasn't the best of transitions. Let me rephrase. Bill, back to your question. There's something that intrigued me that I would like to highlight. Is that better? So as I listened to you ask the question about what if like something that you want to get into hasn't been created, like you're going to be quote unquote the pioneer into creating something, either whether it's technology, it's easier to kind of just go back to technology, right?
Calculator.
Yeah, but it's like anyway, I need to focus. So back to my point.
It's the true thing. Nobody ever imagined the pocket calculator at one point.
But it's true.
Yeah. So seriously, let's say you're living in a time where you couldn't imagine a pocket-sized calculator, and you were like, you never go walk around with a calculator in your pocket all your life. You kept saying this. So go ahead, Inez. Which point? I just want to give you a calculator example.
Thank you. So you're from Zimbabwe. You're currently in Zimbabwe. You are now. A lot of people would describe you as an accomplished comic artist who is getting a lot of traction based on the artwork that you're putting out, right?
But you have a pocket calculator. That's in Zimbabwe. That's the question. No, sorry, Inez, go ahead.
Please carry on. This fool with his cap. No cap.
Okay, if I ever can get to the point of this question. But anyway, it's you. I feel like you, even within that, we're back to the essence of we are a pioneer in essentially in anything we do. If you kind of flip that on its head, because whether you're the first person in your family to go to college, whether you are the first person from your family to immigrate anywhere, or the first person of your family to go into this field or have this interest, or like blue when everybody in your family likes black. Like, if you think about anything that we're doing and interests that we have, we are essentially the niche, right? Like, we have our own perspectives. We are unique in that way. And so as I was listening to you ask that question, I'm like, well, what about you, Bill? Because I feel like you're literally living that example. Like, there aren't, like, I guess, who did you turn to look in Zimbabwe or around you that was like, oh, I want to be just like that comic artist? You know, it's like, you still had a lot of room and latitude, I'm assuming, to like create, like have that creativity to come up with whatever you wanted to come up with because of out of your own interests, right? And so that passion for you, and I'm not speaking for you, but it's like, you know, there's a drive that comes with passion, right? Eventually you end up creating something that you like. And so I'm like, why not? Like, we're pioneer essentially. Why is it that we're, in our perspective, why are we looking at something like, oh, it's such a huge daunting task? So when you look at it that way, it becomes deflating, because then it's like, well, it's never been created or done before. So even for me to start that's just like a really hard thing to do. And going back to like start where you are and start with what you have, it's like, well, I have all these other skills. Like, I can do anime, I can do graphic design, I can do, I have an artistic eye and just putting things together. And if I start there, eventually I can create something. So you're shaking your head no.
No, I don't have an artistic eye for things. Ooh, don't ask me for consultancy, let me tell you right now. I think a lot of the time, this is an assumption, a lot of the time people don't know that they're the pioneers of things. Yeah, they're just doing the best at what they do, and they exceed the limit of what the best means, and it creates the footing for someone else to kick off and do something even greater. Like, for us to have computers, like, someone needed to invent a circuit board and work out all of that, right? The very basics. So as soon as they push the limit of what you could do in terms of switches, because, you know, a switch is literally just on and off. But then if you have like a sequence of switches, then you get binary, right? And for someone to go and then figure out binary and then push it into machine language and so on and so forth, like, these people just didn't know how far. They're literally just having a good time. Maybe not a good time, but they're doing the best with what they have.
But trial and error, essentially.
Yeah, it's trial and error with the tools currently at your disposal, which is what this entire podcast is. Podcast, video, channel, all of that has been about. And when it comes to making African comics, you asked if there was someone that I could look to. No, let me tell you, we was lonely. We was Kangs.
But that's precisely my point, because a lot of the times we think about originality as in like creating something new, and we place that power into like someone else doing it, and we don't look at ourselves as stepping into that power as we're capable just as much. Or, I mean, granted, you have the skills and the passion to like do it. Why don't we see ourselves?
But it's because we don't have that certificate with the shiny logo that says we can do that, or that says we've learned how to do this, or that says that someone has taught us how to do this.
So so you're saying we need external validation?
No, I'm saying we have been told that we need external validation, that what we do can't be done without having that external, that we keep waiting for someone to tell us it's okay to go for that dream, or it's okay to go for this thing. We also don't realize that beyond creativity and you know, artistic inputs and all of that, how many things do we have our friends and family come and ask us for that are simply not things that we consider as skills? How many things do people come and ask you about, for advice on, or to do, or to help them do, that may have nothing to do with art. It can be something as simple as, you know,
Social
help,
media.
whatever. Social, I mean, some might argue social media is an art. I don't know, I'm just here to say. But like setting up a table, organizing books, whatever, you know, dealing with the Excel sheet. Thank you, Ines. You see, I can, if you are able to teach me these things, forget anything else, an experience that you have personally gone through, that you're able to share this insight with me, that is a skill. That is a power. Your knowledge is power. How many things do we know? Do we not, but not realize that they are power? That sharing that knowledge is sharing your power. And we're just too scared to share it because, oh, someone else might know this. So what? That someone else that might know it might not even be in your circle. Might be in someone else's circle. Maybe someone in your immediate circle needs to hear you say that, needs to see you do that, needs to see you try and fail. Maybe you need to see yourself try and fail.
That's I think we have to sit with that one a little bit.
Maybe a combination of what you two just said. Like if someone wants to go study African comic books, right? And I'm not saying I'm the first person. Let's get that out of the way. And I'm the first person to do African comic books. I can't give myself the certificate for knowledge that I'm making. Like I can't even get, because I am the validation. I'm someone else's validation that this is going to work. But I can't give that to myself. And it's in accepting that, and Dima started talking about it and someone cut off, and I'm so mad at both of y'all.
Sorry.
It's that we are part of something much bigger. Like regardless of whether it's your work, vocation, whatever, you accepting that there are people that came before you and that you are not starting something, you are picking up from other people's progress, whittling it down to its more perfect form, giving it to the next person, and that cycle of passing it on to the next person. It's a very African thing. I think it was Robert Glasper, maybe he was quoting someone who was basically like the ingenuity of African culture and music is taking one thing, sampling it, remixing it a little bit, and passing it on to the next person. And I don't want to talk about rap music right now, but they have some of the most fire samples, taking inspiration from songs and literally taking one like melody and sequence. So it's not, you can't even hear what the original version is. And that is a lot of what ingenuity and creativity is. It's that finding what someone, and Dima just said it, finding what someone finds mundane about what they've done. The smallest parts, whether it be teaching how to set up a desk or social media or some such thing, and refining it into something else. Because for a lot of companies back in the day, Twitter was just a nonsense thing. It was just part of the internet. But now you have all social media managers who will tell you you're doing Twitter wrong, and that's why you're not making sales. Someone took the most mundane parts of what you're doing, you know, either chipped out what they found were impurities, and then passed it on to the next person, and you know, just keep that cycle going. And I really think time is such a limiting factor, and it's a scary thing. And we've all talked about it to some degree, that we have a limited amount of time, the pace that we need to learn things, the pace that we need to get better at things. Time is so frightening. If you're not good at something when you're a kid, you know, people tell you to give up. If you're not fast, like as a baby, people be like, no, you can't run track, right? It's not something that you can go learn in high school, right? You must focus on books because that thing that you thought you wanted to do, right? People don't give you that time. People want you to be instantly good at everything. And we also put that pressure on ourselves. Like when we're trying to learn new things, it's like, I'm not instantly great at this. I'm terrible at it. I'm not going to do it. But going through that process of sucking, and someone said it just now, you must look at yourself in the mirror and suck. Yeah, no,
Hey.
it was definitely Dima. You definitely said.
It wasn't me. I didn't say that.
You definitely said I must look at myself and suck. Aye, man, please, there's children. Anyway. Yeah.
All I'm saying is we need to be
I think
ready
about-
to fail. We need to be ready to be wrong. We need to be okay with being wrong. as long as we're okay with understanding that this is a learning process, it's growth. We didn't get out and start walking. We crawled. We held onto tables that flipped and flipped everything on them with us, as we fell, until we learned to take those steps, and first stand and balance, then take those steps. It's a process. It's why we need to stay connected with our inner child.
Did you flip a table? This story sounds very specific.
Oh, you have no idea. So many crystals and silverware everywhere.
But Molly, you got something to say? Yes, please.
Maybe we should close this out.
After the silverware.
But so part of what you were saying, I was listening to some podcast, and it was talking about the creativity, and in terms of literally what you just described, Bill, is what they coin as diversifying experiences. And it's pretty much, if you look at us as like a walking mosaic of all of our personal interactions, experiences, all the different life transitions that we're going through, the messages that we're collecting, and ourselves evolving throughout that process, can we use all the different elements from our experiences into our arts? Can we have that bleed into that, or into whatever work that we're doing? It doesn't have to be just purely artistic. But I think back to we watched the Biggie documentary on Netflix, and for example, Biggie as an artist, I mean, the best example that I can give right now of someone who has used his heritage, the different Jamaican experiences that he's had going back home and visiting family, and bringing back to the rap scene, and using that to essentially infuse it into his music, and coming up with something amazing at the time that nobody was doing back then. And that's literally harnessing the power of that. It's like, how can we use all our different experiences? And also, if you treat all of the different experiences that you have in life as learning experiences, right? Even the people that we interact with, even when we send our kids to, you have volunteering to do, or community service, whatever engagements that you have as kids, as parents, as aunts, as again, back to it takes a village to raise a child. It's like, are we framing those experiences in a way that, like, okay, can we take away something from it, even in interacting and talking to other people? Can we come out with a new perspective or something else that we can take back in and infuse it into our craft, and that becomes part of us?
Be a lifelong learner.
Beyond your lifetime.
Absolutely. Find the joy in what you're doing. I think AfrikanUnicorns needs a Twitter account now.
And Bill should run it.
And Bill should absolutely run it.
Be a lifetime learner. Okay.
Lifetime. Yeah, there you go. That one's a co-tweet. That was like a LeBron and Dwayne Wade. Make sure you tag me, Mr.
You credit, yeah.
Yes.
Oh no,
It's
already gone out.
We need to give credit, and that's the thing. And I think to a large extent, that's part of what gets in the way of us asking for help, or saying that we're stuck. Because if we're stuck, then someone might help us, and then we can't claim the idea for ourselves, or we can't say we got there alone. But like, why are you trying to get there? Like, if you're trying to get fast, go alone. Sure.
Man,
that's a whole other topic, and I was about to go off, but I looked at the time. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, listen.
Let me tell you, people showing up as you're winning to be like, yeah, I helped you with that one thing 4 years ago, and you're just like, sir, like, yes, validate that you assisted me, but like, you're not getting your name on the cover of this thing. Like, I'm holding myself back because, like, I'm trying. Let me mute myself.
Okay, so here's the thing. That comes, I think, from part of it is how we interact with originality, right? Like, I think now it's like we all go like walk around and think that we are just whatever ideas that we come up with has to be original. It has to be the first thing ever, right? Like the first iPhone and like the first new novel thing, right? But I mean, we're at a time now that the internet, we're connected everywhere. So it's impossible that your idea is going to be the first of its kind ever in that space.
Okay, hold your horses with the impossible part.
Highly improbable, yeah.
Highly
Yes,
improbable.
I'll
I'll
give
change
you
my
that.
language. I'll give you
Yes.
that. Thank you for checking me. It's highly improbable that your idea is the first of its kind ever, right? But it's your perspective. You're bringing in your creativity, your art, you into it. You're bleeding you're
Yes.
just everything is you, right? So make it your own instead of trying to be original and being the first to do it, right? It's why can't we still come out with a new video game idea, but it's our concept. It's, you know, this new character that I'm putting out. It's sure there's been plenty of other characters out there, but this one has a very specific context and perspective that I want to highlight. And if we're just okay with that, we can still push the envelope, whatever that means, and be more creative and put out great things and a new hit song or whatever. But at the same time, I think we need to take also ownership as to like it's ours. It doesn't need to be this biggest new original thing.
Yeah, but I think the people, okay, and I think we should round into final comments, and I'm going to start with that. My final comment being, if people were to recognize that being you is about the most original thing you can do, because there is only one you in this lifetime. So if you're really looking for this exclusive original angle, just be you. There's only one you in this lifetime. There's just one.
Cloning.
Be that. Own that. Create a life around that, around the fact that you are that one. And that whatever your experiences are up until whatever point you have reached is your experience. Channel it to whatever, however way you want to be, you want to do it. And yeah, people tell you, oh, you'll never be, you won't be this new. But then they'll go back and tell you, oh, there's nothing new under the sun. There's a new blade of grass pushing itself out of that soil every single morning, every single minute somewhere. So what we mean by new is also something that we need to look at. But if originality is what you're looking for, it's all in you. You are that one original you. There is only one Inas Ajaben.
Statistically,
I know. I don't
But
how many else are there? But I bet there's only one other Ijaben who is the daughter of that great auntie and that great uncle and his siblings. There's just one.
statistically.
And she's the epitome of originality, of creativity, of checking you and telling you, stop being silly. If that's your expertise, that's your expertise. Own that, be that. I love that. Why can't we all be that? And still make money.
And still make money, of course. Anyway, final comments. Omar, what have you got anything else that you really need to get off your chest before our time is up? We've got less than 3 minutes to go.
I got a lot. What I will say is I think one of our challenges that we're too binary.
Thank you. Gosh, that was gonna be my last word. Thanks, babe. Go ahead.
We have to find a way to teach both how to be binary and how to be fluid. I'll leave it at that. I think even the idea of passion versus purpose is too binary. We're talking about combining the two. We have to be patient and we have to hold people accountable. We have to combine the two, and we have to be able to exist on both spaces in order to create the world we want to live in. You know.
Yeah. Hey, 2 minutes to go. Inas, final thoughts.
There's so much.
No, a final thought,
I think
not thoughts.
we have Checking your attitude. I think a lot of the times in even in how we talk to ourselves, I think we have to be kind to ourselves in the sense that when there is a new idea that comes up, instead of being dismissive and looking at all the angles in which that idea won't work. And that's so limiting. And back to that binary, is it going to be good or bad? And Diva's holding up a sign, be a voice, not an echo. Thanks, Diva.
And that's Dima's final thought. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. We really appreciate everybody. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It's at AfrikanUnicorns with a K. If you want to email us, same thing, AfrikanUnicorns@gmail.com. If you want to continue this conversation so we can bring up comments next week, it's #BranchingRainbows, #BringingMagic, #4BlackPower, #We Keep Us Real. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And we'll catch you in the next 2 weeks. Bye.
Peace.